Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you so much for your valuable time and being here with us. I'm Dr. Amir, and my esteemed brother and colleague, Drago Reid, is here with us, and together we're your spiritual bros. Today we have an extraordinary guest. It is a source of immense joy for me to have Grand Master Maha Vajra with us. This extraordinary gentleman has had one of the most profound and positive effects on my life personally. And I'm sure that this is true for thousands upon thousands of others. He is a spiritual grand master, synthesizing and updating so many modalities of spirituality and understanding the nature of us, reality, and the divine in a way that is free from dogma and jam-packed with beauty and compassion. He is the founder of the Maha Buddhist tradition and an author of over 20 titles. That's as far as I could find and search. Grandmaster, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic and terrible, but mostly peaceful.
Isn't that the nature of reality, the paradox that seems to be everywhere, the sublime and the profane, peace and calmness. Would you like to begin with the beginning? How did it all start for you?
As a kid, I was interested in spirituality and computers, video games, and programming. So I'm a coder and a spiritual teacher. Basically, I just kept going at it. I won't give too much detail, but let's just say I went to teenagers in a harsh environment, nothing more special. I didn't suffer more or less than anyone else in this kind of environment. But my brother got killed, and I was 18, he was 19, and he got shot, drug story, guns. And that just made it more profound. So I was already into occult sciences, whatever new age crap I could put my hands on. And, I wanted to be an X-Men, have all the powers, but I can't show them. A typical new ager kid full of fantasies and dreams. And basically, the part spent on fantasy brought me a realization that it's useless. It doesn't bring result. The fantasy, the hoping, the supernatural, although now I have a different vision of what is supernatural, it's less the Force, less Harry Potter than I dreamed of when I was a kid. But the death of my brother was throw me in the philosophical quest. And since then, I just went. I found a teacher here, a teacher there, a few years with one, a weekend with another. But enough dedication to become a Hindu Swami. And from there, early 20s, the harsh life, I spent maybe a year begging in the street. I live extreme poverty, sleeping on my wooden floor and stuff like that. In Canada, when it snows, it's trialing to go beg outside to eat the day. But when the pain of hunger is harsher than the pain of cold, you face it. But that's the thing I kind of realized I did the path like the beginning of Sakyamuni Buddha, where he went in extreme asceticism and find out that's not the way. This is not emancipation. This will not give me a higher level of realization. So yeah, got myself a job. It was nice to think of me as a free spiritual being, but I was just irresponsible and homeless. Okay, I was trash. Not a drug addict, luckily, but I was just not wanting to face life as it is today. So this kind of dogma clash of what is spiritual and what is not a spiritual path, I kind of sorted out through those years. Still went for the extensive Hindu training. Was too harsh, was too intense, also violent, arrogant, where the master has power over the students. So basically, they showed me what not to do in order to find compassion. I went through the process. From there, I studied Buddhism with Buddhist people, Hongaku Jodo, so basically a Pure Land and Zen tradition from Japan. I started Kuji-in actually when I was 12. I stole a magazine in a shop of ninjutsu, and there was an introduction to Kuji-in, and I fell into Kuji-in by there with this robbed magazine because I was 12, broke, poor, and I wanted that. Never told anything, but I started going to that shop to buy actual stuff later to, process the guilt, whatever. But anyway, I was a kid. I was a beaten up kid, not by my parents, but by the environment, by the people, the bullies. So, the values, I didn't have high moral values. I saw the world as a jungle. So sorting through that helped me see this is suffering, this is happiness, this is peace. And contrary to people, happiness for me has less value than peace. Peace is joyful. It's just a soft little harmony that persists that is exquisite. So I base my spirituality on this instead of the binary happiness and suffering. I just went to, okay, we want the bullshit to be over. And that's it. At one point, I just did my practice, did my research, got ordained here, got ordained there. I wasn't there to collect the titles, but it was recognized, okay, you're at this point now, we recognize that. Okay, why not? But there was always the dogma. There was always the weight of dogma. So I decided to start a amateur garage club of philosophy. And so we're just amateurs. We speak of philosophy, but then there's not enough space in the garage. Let's go to the living room, and then okay, we need to rent a place in the hotel room, and it just went bigger and bigger, and start writing books, publishing in the early 2000s, resulting in I'm improvising. I didn't redact this, so I'm kind of trying to just throw you what you asked for. So I just got lost for a minute. Okay, so basically, there are people who wanted to have kind of a certification that I consider they can teach. So instead of just a certificate, I did the full ordination. They wanted a spiritual thing. So I did not build a religion. I created a Buddhist tradition, but we have prayers. We ordain teachers and priests and masters. And basically, we're a religion against my own will. No, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, in the sense that for us, it's important that we remain an amateur club of philosophy, that the MahaVajra institution is only a contact list. It's a list of emails and names, so we can tell you when next we meet. And that's it. It ends there. Based on two core fundamentals, which is basically all that I teach is based on that: freedom and responsibility. You are, as a being, absolutely free at every single level, no exceptions. And you are responsible for absolutely every consequence that you do. In other words, you still have to follow the law. You still have to be respectful and ideally develop compassion and become a good person. There you go.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, it seems during this um, elegant, profound dance that is this incarnation for you, you have landed on something that is very profound for the simple reason that it works. You see, in this world of chaos, it is so important to find something that works and truly works, even if it is just a droplet. Okay, one drop, that's good. We do it a million times and we accumulate results through dedication. And this is very, very rare.
The efficiency of the practice and the wisdom, the Dharma, comes from the fact that before the death of my brother, anything I could get my hands on, of course, I was a kid, I was immature, I was a teenager, but anything I could get my hands on to feel more fulfilled from this, normal crisis as a human was good enough until I realized people I love die. What the fuck, and then as life went on over the years, even while I was studying with these Brahmanical people for the Hindu path, there was stuff that was inconsistent with the idea of compassion for all being, but you have to obey and there's no reason. And the inflated egos and stuff, like I was one of those egos who wanted to inflate too. The fact that I was not at the top of the staircase, but at the bottom, made me realize there's an exaggerated sense of self-importance that is a hindrance to the efficiency of the practice. And the goal is for me and the other to be happy, not just for me to find enlightenment. If I find enlightenment and I'm the only one, I'm freaking useless. So it's not just about me then, it's about the whole, the interconnectivity and everything. So then we find a lot more Buddhist approaches where it's about interconnectedness, compassion for all equal beings, and the titles fell down, and the efficiency of the Dharma was the most important. So I started teaching whatever I felt was efficient to a bunch of people, and what was more efficient, I say, okay, well, let's focus on that. So basically, I don't want to say science because there's a lot of subjective, unmeasured stuff, but with this practical and scientific approach, facts. People testify that they love it, but it's not just testifying, is I can see their life got better, their attitude. There's an objectivity of almost proven fact. This works, this doesn't. And different things work with different people depending on their culture. So all of this was kind of a sorting out. On this, I've built my version of emotional integration, which is the personal growth system. I'm pretty happy. I'm not the one who made it popular. It's my students who made it popular. I've reached maybe 30,000 people, but my students have reached more than 1 million people with the technique. And now it's emotional integration based on what I've built is going to become a formal study in the country of Mexico. There are psychologists and therapists who use it professionally, advertising. I do that. This works. I'm super proud. I don't feel better than others, but I feel very satisfied. I've done what I could do to deliver a set of therapeutical technique that is not exclusive to therapists, and a set of spiritual practice, like Kuji-in is one of those that you like, that are going to produce an effect in the body, in the heart, in the mind. And then you say, okay, I want to be a better person. And that's the main goal. And then there's all the supernatural stuff that is fun. But basically, to be a good person, no exceptions.
Well, there's a method of using statistics for proof. When you have a large enough body of evidence, you can basically use this to support the scientific validity of something. And so it is independent of who does it. It is repeatable, it is observable, it is valid. And so this is extremely unique. I really must emphasize this for my wonderful friends that are hearing me right now. When I became familiar with your material, I was in a really dark place. Again, broke, under a lot of pressure, and actually suicidal. The burdens of life were heavy. And so, very auspiciously, and I like to think of this as divine intervention, I just came across your material. Immediately, it resonated with me. So, the whole practice of the Kuji-in, I completed it diligently in about 3 months. And dear Master MahaVajra, it kicked my butt. And
You can't stay still when you practice this. It moves you. You have no choice. You have to grow up.
well,
I
every
literally
time.
watched Amir practice it in England when we were speaking at the same conference. And when we're watching people from the audience, you can see him with his mala beads. He's just going through it. And I've done the practice as well. Amir got me doing it, and I completed it within maybe a couple of months. And I was doing it all day long, just repeating over and over in my head or out loud when I go for walks, before I go to sleep, before I do an interview, like setting my intentions. It's constant. It's like a consciousness dance within your own body if you make it that way. And like it can kind of cause you to go to an altered state where you start downloading stuff, and like your life starts being like, hey, these are the feelings and emotions that are coming up. You need to burn through these obstacles yourself. You can't have someone save you from something like this. You must walk through the fire to become the purifier. So
Yeah.
like that's a minimal entrance fee I'll pay any day.
There's something you just mentioned, which is something I consider. If you have a cook in the kitchen and and he's a very good cook, but the plumbing breaks. The cook doesn't have what it takes to repair the plumbing. You need another set of tools, another set of competence. Okay. So we have stuff going on the emotional plane and stuff going on the spiritual plane. And we try to fix it with the mental plane. We try to intellectually prepare ourselves to dharma or wisdom. What your practice did, you recite the mantra and then you say downloaded stuff. That's what triggered me on that reply. You start downloading stuff from elsewhere. That's the point. The knowledge is not necessarily stuck on the mental plane. And only intellectually, mentalizing everything, the intellect is essential. It's because of that we can organize life. However, it is not the fundamental truth of everything in the universe. And we can't resolve anything emotional only with intellectual stuff, trying to convince us that the suffering is gone. No, it's going to break you inside. And you can't invent higher dharma just because you thought about it more. You do the practice and then you become aware of what supersedes the mind. Intellectually, we would not have grasped this. And when I write a book or anything, all I have as an access is people's intellect. I write words they understand. Then it depends on these people to say, I like this point of view, I'm going to practice it. And then they open up to something that cannot be transmitted by words. It's their own personal experience of the spiritual realm.
Which I think gets into quantum mechanics, because it's almost as if when you're downloading, you're collapsing matter, becoming the waveform. And once you collapse into the waveform, you have connection to all. So basically, the current body has limitations due to karma, due to recycling, due to what you have to do, not awakening, not facing your traumas. That's the number one thing I experience. I'm a quantum healing hypnosis technique hypnosis practitioner. And I specialize in people in Black programs, people that went through MK Ultra, Secret Space program, all that stuff. I help them uncover and activate hidden memories, screen memories, all kinds of amazing stuff. But I realized when we're entering hypnosis, it's almost like they're collapsing their self in order to access this quantum field. And that's why we call this the quantum realm. And like you basically created almost like a quantum Buddhism. You know what I'm saying? All the
Actually,
stuff you went
quantum
through.
Buddhism was the name of my tradition in 2006. Quantum Buddhism, that's where MahaVajra came. MahaVajra is the Sanskrit of the great field.
So
Well,
it's a way
somebody's
basically
been
to
doing their
access this
practice,
field.
yes. So how
Yeah, so you were
incredibly
talking
valuable.
about, sorry, Amir, you were talking about you went through all these different practices, all these accumulations of titles, and it seems like you kept finding limitations within each teaching. And it's people
Yeah,
like me and Amir and you. It's just like you have to get to the point where you're like, there's too much dogma in this style, there's too much form in this style. It actually holds back what I'm doing. So it almost
but
gets to a point where you have to, sorry.
but there was good stuff in all of those.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And all the good stuff was the same, and all the bad stuff was the difference. So basically, what they don't agree on, throw it out, and everything they agree on, it's what makes it work. So just focus on that.
I agree. In hypnosis, we refer to that as beyond quantum healing. So like quantum healing hypnosis technique by Dolores Cannon, our teacher, that's a limited technique. We can't do it online. It has rules, stuff like that. But then you get into beyond quantum healing, you remove all those limitations and restrictions, and it opens up even more.
Yeah.
So I believe what you're doing, you brought the best of everything, combined it, brought a scientific explanation, almost like a quantum mechanics and quantum physics point of view to it, and you're merging science with spirituality.
I am careful when I mix science with spirituality. I want to stay simple in the fact that physicists, the science people, have a definition of the word quantum that is quite different than what we've made it in the New Age and spiritual world. And I don't want to offend them or bring friction with those worlds, because I like to work with scientific people. Actually, more and more scientific people like to study what I do. The thing is, what we call quantum and all the influence of the mind and everything, this is not new. Now we call it quantum. Before it was something else. Um, it's important to go to the core of what works. And you're in hypnosis, more and more hypnotist. I don't know how to say it in English. What's the proper name? Hypnotist?
Yes, hypnotist. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Hypnotist. Okay, because I'm French, so sometimes an English word just disappears. Okay, so more and more hypnotists also use what I teach in the sense it's not just me talking to a mind. It's me bonding to a mind, and then it's me becoming the mind of the other. So I am changing. I'm not changing the mind of the other. I am the mind of the other changing, and it comes with the idea of oneness. Basically, the consciousness of the other and mine are not necessarily separated, but we remain individual in our perception. So it's really nice what Drago you bring now, that you would find inspiring my work for that. Keep going, because the wisdom of Maha Vajra, or quantum Buddhism, as I called it when quantum was the hip word. I was invited to the Quantum Mind Convention, which is all physicists and doctors, but it's all about this thing about the effect of the mind. In the time, there was a movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? And The Secret. So basically, those who created that, they invited me to go to an event where we would speak. And their big question is, we've mathematically proven or talked about the oneness, that there's only one consciousness, but you're the only one that we know who's actually experienced it. Can you talk about it? So, well, I can talk about it, but a lot of people have talked about it. You're not going to get it until you sit and do the practice. You have to do it yourself, or else you remain a locality. You cannot be explained intellectually something that happens outside of the mind or beyond it. Yeah. So the beyond quantum, beyond the mind also, it's what you are as a being.
Yeah, so it's kind of like them holding that point of view of the double slit experiment or the cat in the box theory and not actually experiencing it firsthand with their own consciousness.
If you look at the double slit experiment, looking at the board with the two slits and looking at the photon content, and you understand it, cool. But until you look at the result at the end and see the difference between really observing yourself and really not really observing yourself. The double slit experiment explained that what you observe, you affect. So if you want to observe yourself, then you will affect yourself. If you don't really look at yourself deep inside, you won't. So the double slit experiment showed physically that the fact of observing something, you cause a change. And if you don't observe, you don't cause a change. Therefore, without self-observation, you won't change yourself. It's kind of, you can't trick yourself mentally into resolving what holds you back. You have to do it,
Yes. And here comes that really critical milestone, that you have to do it. Many people, and I'm sure that you've faced this amongst the thousands that have learned from you, they may be at a state where they still have much healing to do. And so that level of self-esteem and endurance or willpower has been eroded through what has occurred.
Yeah.
How would you motivate them? Because these
do the easy stuff.
Easy stuff.
Yeah, you do the easy stuff. You don't throw them, hey, here's a book of deep, dark philosophy on how you could experience oneness. It's out of their range. Because, in my crowd, there'll be 50% of seekers and 50% of I don't know. Some of them are there for the science. Some of them are anti-science. They're all there for the spirit. And some of them are just broken. They're people who are mentally unstable, trying to find a solution. So sometimes I had to address that. So I've got experience in this. Start with easy stuff. Start with, if you can't concentrate for too long, don't concentrate for too long. Do it for 5 minutes, but do it correctly 5 minutes. You learn to breathe. It doesn't look like a mystery, but if you can't focus on the conscious breath, you're missing a little something. And then don't try to resolve your problem. Just feel like shit for a moment. Okay, what? But I want to get rid of suffering. Okay, but that will come. How about you feel like shit for a moment? Just go to how painful it is and sit there and train them to stay more than 30 seconds without their mind fleeing. And just do one thing. And then, okay, that's your 5 minutes for the day. Stop it. And they get acquainted to observing the suffering and observing The mind. Okay, why do you suffer that? No one loves me. Okay, do you realize how much you need others to love you? Maybe the problem is not that they don't love you, but the fact that you're attached to the idea that they have to love you. So, next step, okay, I want to be loved so much by others. I have to mourn that. I have to let that go. But what happens if no one loves me? Well, if love is what you want, you have to act in a way that people will love you. So don't be annoying, don't be a bitch, don't be too hard, and stop criticizing all the time. Try to be peaceful and smile, and just try to help them reestablish a sane morality, but step by step as they can digest it. Just throwing them the book doesn't work. You need to, I don't do one-on-one anymore, but I've trained hundreds of people who do one-on-one therapy, especially for these cases. And I say, hey, just go there. This person is for you. This person is for you. And it's just baby steps, little bites, like just learn the next thing. The Buddha had two very important teachings in the Lotus Sutra, one of which is expedient mean. It is your responsibility as a teacher to find a way for the student to learn. If your goal is to teach, you're useless. If your goal is for the student to learn, then you can do something about it. But if the only thing is, I want to talk and people to listen, you're useless. Your mind has to be on your result, which is people will learn, not I will teach. So it refocuses your purpose as a teacher. And also, breaks a bit of pride, brings humility in the process. The goal is for the other to progress. The other thing was the Phantom City. Baby steps. Only give what someone can, but don't hold back. Don't keep a secret. Don't be esoteric. I have wisdom that you can't have. Don't do that. Just you go and you deliver as they can progress, and you just go ahead. And if you see that they can digest it, give the next step. And you have to make sure to produce a result into the other. Until you reach a point that some people are just overbroken. Fundamentally broken people who do not have enough concentration, that have so much arguing inside that you try to teach and they cut you in the middle, and the transmission is impossible. So, okay, I am not the person who can deal with that, because there's not a 1 minute stretch of listening. I mean, we're talking 1 minute. And, some people are broken, but they need to be right about everything. And whatever you teach them, they already know the technique. Okay, well, please do it. Okay, but I'm still broken. So can you help me? Well, you've shown that I can't. Okay, so this is very rare, but it happened. But usually there's a way to give little things, little exercise, and then people progress. And then after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, one person says, hey, I was stuck in my head. Yeah, absolutely. That was the point. I'm not stuck in my head anymore. Good. And you got that, like they can go back to a certain amount of sanity to be socially functional. And I think we underestimate the importance of being socially functional, to not be that weird and outside of the frame, because you still need to function. It's not conformity. It's not about accepting the oppressor. It's just, don't be the annoying person that will make others reject you, and then you won't complain of being rejected by everyone. Okay, so it's like, learn to deal with the others. And once people have that, then they can go so far into very high spiritual states. But first, stop wanting to be loved by everyone, because everyone is someone else's idiot at one point. Just go drive on the highway, you'll be someone else's idiot at one point. It'll happen. Okay, it's life.
Wow. So that breaks the ice, gets them started, really. Yeah. And then the results become self-evident, undeniable. It's like starting that fire that then catches. And that's a beautiful approach.
It's what comes of the majority of the comments is it works. I had a moment, I'm also hyper-conscious. I don't want to sound weird, but I am weird, so I'm just going to go with it.
Master, you're in good company.
All right. So I felt myself extremely wise, okay? Not through wanting to prove. So I felt it was a humble assertion of, yes, I'm at this point. But it was not just me observing the result. It was people coming to me saying, I've studied with this master, that master, all the best that are known to be the best of the world right now. And what you brought is so extraordinary. Well, I would be sure to say, if what I brought you is so extraordinary, maybe it is because you already have other training with other people who are so good. But basically, there was this idea that I felt that I was extremely wise, one of the wisest on earth. Okay. And I didn't want to say it too much, but I'm not the kind of hiding, like if I was ashamed. I really felt it. Like I'm one of the wisest person that exists because so many people testify, but I also see what I teach works, and some other people, their teaching work, but some other people doesn't. And it was the thing that I was calculating. I was in a mindset of who's the wisest. So there was still some arrogance inside. Because when I dropped that, I dropped into another level of reality, which in Buddhism we call immeasurable wisdom. And I didn't realize how many other masters are there. Oh, there are many more in a state of being immeasurable, where you're not like whose wisdom is the best. You don't measure. You just appreciate what it brings, and that's it. So that was a part of that was an important breakthrough. I was 34 years old. Hey, that's almost 20 years ago. Damn, that makes us younger. So so it was important for me to see the techniques I teach work. It was very tempting to inflate my head. I did it, but somewhat in a mature way, where I still didn't compare and find myself better. But I felt really extremely wise until I discovered there's more. And I broke this idea, like the idea of calculating, of limiting, of dimensionizing. The Dharma is universal. And the entire universe is so freaking big, it doesn't fit in one system. So it was a great step for me to do that. But that brought me, the reason why I'm saying this, that brought me even closer to what matters is the effect on the others and not the effect on me. Because if I sit in meditation, I'll go to oneness, I'll have blissful states and terrible states, and I'll just accept whatever comes, and it's fine. But if it doesn't work on the other, then that's my job. That I've decided to take that mantle. It's not anyone else's. Not everyone is responsible for the progress of others, but I decided to make it my work. So I feel guilty if someone doesn't do their practice or whatever. I mean, it's not my responsibility. Ultimately, we're all self-contained beings. But I took on a mantle of I'm going to perfect things. And how do I perfect it? I teach it. I think of something, I teach it to a lot of people, and then I see what comes out. And I really have deep discussions about what is the effect of that in your life. Practical, super high spiritual trips, development of skills. What does it bring? It healed your liver. All right. I mean, I'm not gonna throw miracles left and right. I'm not this kind of new ager, but I'm gonna say, look, if it helps, it helps, right?
Yeah. Well, talking about liver here, using the elemental mantras that you so graciously have shared with your students, worked on me. My enzymes were all effed up all over the place. 2-3 rounds, and then I do a full blood panel. The doctor comes looking at me with the chart. This is unusual. So, oh no, something's wrong. No, this is extreme health. What did you do?
Yeah.
It works.
There's
on the
this
body.
person. Again, we don't proclaim miracles. We just speak of influence. Everything is influence. The fact that someone had a diagnosed cancer, phase 3, so advanced but not final, and she practiced the 5 basic elements that we call the 5 basic elements in the MahaVajra tradition. And if you do it diligently, you charge, you spend your 20 minutes per day. It's you need to take on the mantle. You need to decide, I'm going to do that. Okay. And then you do it. And after a few months, stuff regulates. But it's not just the elements. It's the elements and also the personal growth. You've observed yourself. What in your mind causes the cancer to happen? Accept that sometimes it's just physical. And the physical realm is still there. You might have a cancer because it's there. That's it. Your nutrition could affect it. Your behavior, your proximity to your Wi-Fi imager. It could be genetic modern medicine has to be respected in the New Age world. For me, that's very important. That's the base, because that works. A joke from Ricky Gervais: pray for little Timmy who's got cancer and send money so he can get therapy. That's like sending money to get therapy because he completely doesn't believe in prayers. It's just, but at least send the money because that's the same as just sending the money, even if you don't pray. I believe because we've got so many cases of this, like this person who had cancer, it went away. She stopped, got it back, died. You know, so because the core was not resolved. But if you also change your lifestyle habits, your feeding habits, and you do more cardio, more exercise, the elements, they just come to support everything. You change so fast, and it's literally it realigns the components in your body. And we're into the science of that now. We're into the measuring. I'm building a center called the Mark Center, Modern Anthropology Research Center. And basically, when we do the apparently supernatural stuff, there's wristband for the oxygenation, the pulse, the tension. We got an EEG on the head. There's a container of water outside. If we do it in our blood, can we do it in an outside container? Actually, we measure it with a voltmeter, the conductivity of the water. If the metallic density changes, then we'll see it. There's a spectrometer, a visual light and UV spectrometer, temperature, a pH meter. So all of these are connected, and we're just building this stuff so we can document with data loggers and a scientific protocol, a very rigid scientific protocols. We do not want to claim anything subjective from the metaphysical and dogmatic world from the past. We don't want to say it's true. We want to measure if there's actual anomalies or changes that have not yet been explained by physical or chemical interaction, just through the state of being that we have. And the first results are really fun, challenging also, but we affect mass and we're measuring it because what matters is the measure we have. A bit like you said, you did the elements and your doctor was impressed, but that was not done with a pool of a great deal of people who do exactly the same thing in the same protocol together. It's one guy. And then I get a testifying, now we say in English, testimonial from another guy, another girl. So I've heard a lot of those, but none of them have been passed through a scientific protocol. So now I'm working with the Mark Center to calculate exactly the same data in the same experience in the same practice for a lot of people to compile, and we'll let the peer reviewers, the physicists and the doctors and the scientists, what do you do with this data? Because that's the new world.
Yes.
That's the science, to be able to demonstrate we physically change the property of water and the property of our blood when we can afford it, because there's finance involved. We'll have a nurse that has the right to take blood before and after the practice that is measured, to also see what was the change. Usually after half an hour, the glycemia would change, stuff would change, but there are things that would change that are not explained by just half an hour of waiting or two separate measurements. So this is the kind of stuff we're into with that center. You'll be informed of whenever we get there. I'm actually flying in Colombia in 2 days to go meet one of the groups there.
Wow, this is incredible.
That's cool.
It is really cool, really, really extraordinary. So it is taking it from, let's say, separate experiencers that would wholeheartedly testify that, yes, there is some sort of cause and effect there, to actually examining this, corresponding with our understanding of physical laws and effects that then can be perhaps formalized into utilizing what we can do with these incredible machines through certain practices.
After that, it will be about application. But first, it's establishing a theory, an hypothesis. What you brought up a few times, the efficiency, it has to work. If it doesn't make me feel better, then why continue, Yes. So now we're in the world post-COVID where they want to see numbers. So it's the world that says, you want to bring your stuff, you need to give them the numbers. You need the data. You need the measurement. So, okay, this is the next thing to do. It's to show the measurements. Before COVID, there were a lot of testimonials. It's raining. I don't even have to hunt for them. They're everywhere. There's a few people frustrated online because they have a very Christian way of saying things, and I'm not Christian, and they judge me. There's the Japanese people who wanted to be exclusively the masters of Kujin, who were really angry at me 20 years ago. And now there's a good load of those who practice Kuji-in from my methods, and they come to my seminars. I mean, yeah, there's 15 Dan ninjas from Japan. They come to my seminars. We go, okay, this guy, he understands Kuji-in. Let's go study with him. So it was good, but it's okay. It happens. There's a lot of testimonials, and the great majority are so positive, but it's not enough. This world requires objectivity and peer-reviewed facts. So, well, we'll do it with peer-reviewed facts. Let's physically measure the pH of water and show we change it with our state of being. Let's just do it. And once we have numbers, yeah,
then
it is what it is.
Solid. Yes. So, if you wanted to give some advice to our audience for them to begin a practice, and again, I really, really honor you for this ideal that is actualized, efficiency and effectiveness. So you really know what you're doing. And there are so many that have benefited. So if you wanted to recommend something that people begin, if they are dedicated and do their due diligence, that will work for them, what would it be?
Depending on the person, if a person is more inclined in doing spiritual practice, I would say Siddhi meditation or Kuji-in. Kuji-in, the typical thing that you know about. It is not only a spiritual practice, but it comes with a set of dharma, a wisdom. Those who are more into the philosophical quest, I would point them to emotional integration. Emotional integration, in Spanish, there are organized schools. In English, there's videos on YouTube. I think I calculated last time I have 1,114 videos on YouTube of 45 minutes for free of wisdom about pretty much anything that I teach, plus free books and whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that are free for anyone to start. And I would recommend start with the free stuff and see what it does for you. When we speak of efficiency, it doesn't mean that in 5 minutes it will work. You might want to give it a few days, give time for the will to start. So efficiency in the sense that in a few months you get something that you have not gotten before. That's a testimonial I've heard a million times. Well, let's say 100,000 times to be more honest. Let's say 10,000 times. So, so the idea is you give it a shot and you see what it does to your body, to your mind. You do some emotional integration, or you do some Kuji-in or some Siddhi meditation. And this will cause a change. Then you'll become, attracted to the rest of the process. Usually those who go into Kuji-in, they start there and they finish until they've read every little phrase about it. They've watched all the seminars on YouTube, and they've sit and practice for their 90 days and their 63 days. And they, you do the charge inside and you realize this makes me more peaceful, more empowered. Kuji-in has a little side effect that makes us feel superior because it pumps you up. So the ego that is already there anyway, it will do that. So just see that if you get proud, be proud of yourself. Don't hope others to be proud. Look how good I am. I've got power. Don't hope for others to recognize the beautiful work you've done, okay? But that's one effect of Kuji-in. Basically, the growth is palpable to the point that it could make you prone to a power trip. But you know what? If you have a power trip, it's because your ego already had the root of it. So it allowed it to reveal. Just be wary of that. And then go. You will feel the rush of energy, the resource, the little influence on your health, the little influence on your mind, and say, okay, this is just a better way of functioning. So yeah, Kuji-in is basically how most people have met me.
A bunch of a lot of the stuff you guys have been talking about, it's creating a lot of these different bridges between different subjects. And you just mentioned induce emotional integration. I see this in my clients constantly with hypnosis, and you guys were talking about cause and effect, limitations, what holds people back. The fact that it metaphysically can cause cancer, disease, habits, all kinds of stuff. And that creates all these polarity problems. It's just like if you're in a type of relationship and you're weak, you're going to have that power dynamic dominate you constantly. And you had mentioned the ego layer about teaching and learning. I become a polymath in 2005. I had a traumatic brain injury, and it dramatically increased my IQ and how I process the fabric of time and space. And I can even see in slow motion, voluntarily. I can choose a moment to slow down, and I can see micro expressions and like all the details of life. And I got to a point where I realized that I was kind of feeling kind of egotistical and superior because I realized that everyone around me was basically not they weren't awake. And it
Yeah,
was
they don't see
frustrating.
what you see, so you think it makes you better.
Yeah, so I kind of went through that, and then I had a profound moment happen to me one day, and I've been really reading philosophy since I was young. I was unfortunately abducted by the Air Force at age 5 and put into CIA black programs to become a soldier. And that caused all kinds of identity issues, that whole polarity, the push and pull effect of what consciousness is. And I got to a point where I attained certain hierarchical ranks in the military big time. And that brought a lot of ego. And after a while, I realized I no longer wanted to be the boss. I wanted to be the leader. And in order to be the leader, you have to go from teaching, learning to learning to teach. Because if you've already accumulated everything you've ever needed to know in a lifetime, you shouldn't be here. You should be ascended. Because if we don't constantly learn throughout this lifetime, then that's the highest purpose, to constantly become and evolve into a better person of yourself. Because how can we truly learn from the masters if the masters are always evolving outside of this material plane? You know what I'm saying? So you have to be
Yeah.
part of that duality in order to go through your own struggles, to go with what's happening with your father. It's a
Exactly.
constant test. It never ends. And one day I realized, I said this a couple times. I said this to Amir, but one day I realized that I know a lot, but once you know a lot, you realize one day you truly know nothing. Because the more you discover, the more you realize there is no end. And a single human vessel can't hold that amount of information, just like you said earlier.
I like to be pragmatic about the more I know, I know nothing. I know it sounds very good, but I don't agree with the fundamentals of it. The more I know, the more I can know more. I get that. But the affirming, the more I know nothing, it's just nice to say because some cool dude said it in France at some point. But the thing is, I can make coffee without killing anyone. I know how to make my toast without burning the house. I know stuff. So I do not affirm I know nothing. Just a parenthesis on the way I would approach any cool sounding philosophy and say, I want to go back to the facts. Do I know nothing? No, that's not true. I know things, and there are things I don't know. Pure simplicity, stating things as they are, instead of the philosophy that it makes us feel good. It wants to make us humble, like the more I know nothing, but it does not precision wording. It's poetic, it's metaphorical, but then it's inaccurate. So I was going somewhere that had to do with your service in the military and the pumping up of ego. But anyway, we go with the idea of one of the things I like to do is come back to the pure basics about everything, every phrase that sounds good, every counseling we were given. A very nice phrase. If you can change something about a situation, why worry about it? Just change it. And if you cannot change something about a situation, why worry about it? You can't change it, just accept it. It's super nice to know, but I still worry about shit. It's very nice to know that there's no point in worrying, but I still worry. So all of these beautiful phrases, they're there to inspire us, but I like to go back to, okay, but I'm still worried. Okay, but I do know things. And I accept that a lot I don't know. And that's it. It's by reviewing the past dharma that I could come back to a point of stillness and say, what is a fact that I can establish? And on what can I build growth for real, for me and for whoever wants to, my student or anyone else. So yeah, when you said teaching to learning to teach, teaching to others, and actually learning to teach, that's the entire process. And for this, we have to strip out a lot of the old stuff and say, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that was basically my thought. Before you made that comment, I was actually segueing into what you just said. And it goes back into duality of how people they think they're separate from everybody. And they don't realize that the master is the teacher is the master, that all three of us right now, we're only one being separating our identity to pretend we're separate. So the person you're fighting is actually you. It's an identity problem. You're not realizing that the teacher is right in front of you and you are the teacher because you're teaching yourself. So that applies to
Exactly.
literally everything. I was going to say in conclusion of this that I've said before with Amir, I got to the point where I realized I'm just a single grain of sand on a single beach in a single state on a single planet in the ocean of the cosmos. But I am all the grains of sand. And it's only viewing life with locality in this time and this space that's kind of fixing me here that limits all possibilities because you are all possibilities. You are the wave, you are matter, you are the tortial field, you are the earth, you are the space, you are the air. So, like, all knowledge is here to access now. You just got to change your frequency and tune the radio station in to release the self projections and the ego and realizing that everyone's hurt you is actually hurting it's just yourself hurting yourself. You know what I'm saying? All
It's a
loss is there
paradox.
to teach you. Yeah,
It's a
like all loss
paradox.
is there to teach you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The other is really outside hurting me. That's real. I am also experiencing this from my point of view of being the victim of that persecutor. That's one point of view, and it is real. We can't say it's all an illusion in our mind. We live it, therefore it's real. However, it is also a single stream of consciousness through all beings that are playing both roles at the same time. But that is not enough to say it. It's the spiritual quest to go experience oneness. And then that disengages a lot of conflict where I don't have to defend myself. But I also, out of prudence, would not put myself at harm's, in harm's way. So there's a balance. The paradox is to embrace the fact that we decide to incarnate as separate beings and face responsibly reality with that charge that we took on. The other is really going to hurt me if I stay in a position where they could. But also understand the power of forgiveness is to understand that if this other person is going to hurt me, they are also suffering something. So it's not just about me having a lesson, but what are they going through to get to the point that they might hurt someone else, and now I'm just the target. Then you add the oneness. I'm the one experiencing the victim of his lesson. He's experiencing suffering to have the need to impose it on me. And all of this is a single unified dharma with no separation. And we can only taste one bite at a time. This is pistachio, this is salt, this is maple syrup. And you take them all together, it tastes like shit. But separately, I mean, it makes sense. So yes, there's a oneness of consciousness, but we must not use the wisdom of oneness of consciousness, especially before experiencing the stream of oneness, seeing from another's eyes and stuff like that, the deconstruction itself. While we're living it separately, be prudent, take responsibility for this local incarnation and say, this is where I'm at now. And then you do it responsibly and prudently and wisely. And if someone is hurting you, justice is also a virtue. They have to stop hurting you or others. Abusers, you put them in cages. You need to bring there's a paradox where all this spirituality is there to make you better and bring forgiveness at a point that you can accept anything that goes on in life because they just don't know what they're doing. Like the Jesus phrase, they just don't know. They are not conscious of their suffering and they're projecting it on others, but we get to suffer it. The paradox then is I'm incarnate here and we need laws and we need rules. We need a system that maintains harmony or else chaos wins and anarchy wins and the bullies will oppress the others. And that would actually slow down the evolutionary progress of those who need a moment of peace to do their meditation and progress. If abusers steal the capacity to eat, if the population in general cannot eat every day, they don't have a mindset for personal growth and philosophy. They need to eat. They're back into survival mode. So it's important to embrace the paradox of all the higher states of being are going to be extraordinary when you feel them, quest for them, cultivate them, and do not deny that you live it from a separate point of being, and ensure that there's harmony and compassion and respect in society for us to have time to philosophize and grow, or else the system breaks. So it's really paradoxical, the egg and the chicken thing, you know?
Yes. Well, we should eat both of them at the same time and be done with the paradox. Well,
yeah.
Well, now let's move to, let's say, the good stuff.
Okay, that was the bad stuff.
Well,
he means more juicy stuff.
More juicy stuff.
All right,
and
let's
here
go for
we
it.
come to your latest book.
Yes.
And it is the Maha Vajra Sutra of direct experience and inherent perfection.
Okay. First, MahaVajra is a name that I was given. But this is not MahaVajra for real. MahaVajra is a universal concept, and I'm a proxy. I borrowed the name. There's a lot of Peters in England and a lot of Marias in Spain, you know? So it's my name because I took it on. But if someone contemplates the Buddha MahaVajra, they're not specifically contemplating me as a person. They're into the universal contemplation. I pray, Om Guru MahaVajra Siddhi Hum. I want to be inspired by what is MahaVajra. And my spiritual name as a Buddhist teacher is a question, not an answer. Okay? So that's the first thing to know. I wrote the MahaVajra Sutra not as, look at me, I wrote a sutra. That's not it. I want people to grasp what I have understood of this, the great paradox, basically. So that's the first thing to know about the direct experience of inherent perfection. What does it mean? It's all about the capacity to recognize that everything in the universe is inherently perfect. And you can reach a point where you have a direct experience of it, because a proxy experience won't work. Okay? Imagining it won't work. To reach a point of understanding a rapist is not evil, he's simply an animal. And that's why he has to go in a cage, because we put animal in cages so they stop. You know, it's important to stop them. That doesn't justify what they do, and causing suffering has to be stopped. However, the hatred and the anger we have for another person will carry us, will be on our heart. So the paradox of making sure that everything is respected correctly, that compassion is ensured for everyone to have the freedom to act on their own terms and also discover themselves. But those who go to war are not evil. They're animals. They are stuck in greed and hatred. And then that has to stop. We have to do something to stop that. But the fact that I'm so frustrated every time I look at the news about war, I'm the one who's being frustrated. Okay, so to reach a point of forgiveness does not justify injustice. The guy who killed my brother 3 days ago, he was not yet in jail. 3 days after he killed my brother, he came to the funeral, and I took him in my arms. I was 18. I took him in my arms. I said, you need to live your life knowing I forgive you. You need to learn that. You need to understand that I forgive you, but you still have to be responsible for what you did. But I forgive you. And he was just crying, so I repeated it 3 times. And everyone around was like, the fuck? No, he's not just a killer of my brother. He's a person who suffers dramatically. The amount of suffering I have for my brother being dead will not change, regardless of how much pain I could impose to him. And hating him would make me suffer more. I already am mourning loss. I just need to feel that this will be taken care of. And he went to jail, and that's it, you know. And then he went to jail again, and his life went whatever. But I did not want to carry that on my heart. Forgiveness is not about accepting injustice. It's not saying, okay, what you did is right. No. Forgiveness is understanding that while justice is served, maintaining the emotional damage inside me out of pride. How dare he did this to me, and he broke the family bonds, and all the awfulness that we keep inside because we have not observed the inherent perfection of the universe. On the surface of the earth, there's a fine film of biological goo that we bubble. We are insignificant compared to the size of the Earth, even more insignificant compared to the size of the sun. And there's 300 trillion suns in our galaxy and 300 trillion galaxies. I'm not sure about the numbers. I'm just throwing something in there that is more or less accurate, according to Brian Cox and Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example, my science dudes, that I watch. So what's my size in that? So drama comes and obsesses us because we're unable to say, nature does that. A star explodes. You think about your brother's death, a star explodes. Everything is there, gets destroyed. And it doesn't make everything without value. It makes everything wonderful, but equally. So everything is fantastic. Life is wonderful, but equally. Why would my life be more wonderful? Because I'm the victim, and my brother was the victim, obviously, and he's the murderer. Why does that make my life more wonderful? Only in the scope that I decide to see it as a separated, judgmental, dramatic human. I know it's hard because the pressure emotionally is so strong that it pushes you back in your head, and from the head outside. He did that, not me. Why should I suffer because the other killed my brother? Well, that question is futile because you suffer anyway. Why should I suffer? There's no why. You suffer. That's it. It's a fact. Okay. And you suffer because of attachment, and attachment is wonderful, but then the thing is gone. So detach. Your lover's gone, your father's gone. My father died 1 month ago. That's when I started writing that book, and I wrote it in 1 month and put it online a few days ago, and you just bought it. Yeah, he bought it and got it before the interview. But I just wrote that book in 1 month saying, this is how I experience the suffering. Now my mom's dead, my father's dead, my brother's dead, my uncles, except one, all the nucleus of childhood, there's no one else. So I went through a crisis of, what's left for me? Well, whoever I want to chat with, it pushed me into applying this. I'm going to testify while I do my integration, while I mourn my father, while I suffer and cry and laugh and remember the good trips. I did not deny when I lived, but I did not add on it. It was so hard, and he's been 19 years at the hospital suffering, and it was so dramatic. I tried my best to relieve myself of the extra story of drama to make me feel so important because I suffer so bad. This is the pain I have now. It hurts. And it's not less, but it's not more. And I went through it. So same with the suffering with the murder of my brother. Look, I did forgive the guy fundamentally. I understand that for him to do that, he suffered a lot. This guy suffers probably still a bit. Probably got better. I mean, I got news from him only 20 years ago. So the idea that if I can make his life a bit better, give him a hint of that he's not just a piece of trash, that someone to which he has done the unthinkable is capable of forgiveness, and how that could affect his life and everyone who was around me that heard it. That's the inspiration I can do. It's not just words. It's how you show this is how to grasp. I suffer, and that's what life does. Stuff comes, it happens. There's love, and then it's broken, and then there's love again, and it is what it is. So I wrote the sutra in a very old sutra translation style. It's a new thing, but I still call it a sutra because it is a sutra in the definition of a sutra. And although it's not antique, and it is a teaching that will bring you the realization of why does it hurt so much to be in separation, to be a local individual being. And then you have 21 components of the ego and so many other things about to explain this is what you're made of. Now look at yourself. So wonderful, but not more wonderful than another. So don't pump your head either out of this. It's a challenge. This book is a hard book to read and digest.
However, I must
Yes.
admit it's much more approachable than more traditional texts on the subject. That inherent perfection or the great perfection from other traditions like the Dzogchen or the Bon tradition, that ultimately move towards this great state of liberation, attaining the rainbow body, that ultimate oneness. Going through this is significantly updated.
Yeah,
And this
it's
is
up
not,
to the point.
it's
You know
not unique
something
to your work.
fantastic in Dongchen and the Tibetan approaches is the fact that the core of the wisdom is I have to observe my exaggerated sense of self-importance. I'm not less important, but I'm not more important than other. That's the first thing that you learn in the Dongchen is look at that. And then they go into, it's not antiquated because it still works, but it's unactual. It's like, okay, but what do I do with this? The rainbow body, what do I do with this? And then you practice rainbow body and you basically disincarnate, constantly thinking about something superior to your body. How about living in here, incarnate in my body? Breathe, inhabit, feel, and observe. Be in a fourfold and tenfold state, fully embodied consciousness. I'm here, and this universe is perfect. I judge it because it hurts. The universe didn't hurt me. There's pain. What do I do with that? Sense of responsibility. So yes, I'm aware of what the Dongchen is, not in depth, but the mantras they use, the practice. I've looked at it enough. I was more into the Zen and Pure Land Buddhism. Then I went to Vajrayana and stuff. I've studied many traditions, so Dongchen came on the table. Also, Ati Yoga. You said Dongchen. I have a personal thing to say about this now. Ati Yoga, the yoga of non-distinction, is extremely, extremely present in this book on inherent perfection. Ati Yoga, the practice of non-distinction, of non-separation, that was brought in the Dongchen by Vimal Mitra, the master of Vajrayana in that time in Tibet when they started. He came from India. He's a Hindu guy. He came from India. He's the one who gave birth to Dongchen. Basically, Dongchen is the Tibetan version of Ati Yoga of Sanskrit, which is to practice non-distinction, non-separation. Okay, and this guy prayed Brahma. He was a Hindu, so he's a Buddhist, but he prayed God. And then in Buddhism, there's no God. Okay, but he prayed Brahma. By the way, Sakyamuni Buddha prayed God, Brahma, also. By the way. The same way Christians pray the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost. Okay, so there's a lot of misunderstanding in the Buddhist teaching if you've not gone through those motions to understand, well, when they pray God Brahma, they don't call a person. They just contemplate the universal stream of consciousness and all things. That's the undefined, formless, no anthropomorphic. It's not an old dude with a beard on a cloud that judges you when you touches your private at night. It's none of this. It's just the supreme consciousness in all things. And the sutra of MahaVajra on the inherent perfection is how I could find a way bridging modern language and the old sutra approach, because some people still want that, on how can I deliver this, practice this, and eventually you might experience oneness. And then you got the mantras for those who want to play with that. It's really fun.
Oh, okay. What are mantras? These magnificent things. I want to ask the master.
Okay. The Harry Potter version is there are magic spells to invoke mystical powers that you don't understand and don't see. And it'll do stuff, and you just have to believe hard enough and then get no result because it was all in your head. The objective experience, okay? Let's start with the base. When you see something marvelous, big, surprising you, oh is the natural sound that comes out of us, regardless of the culture, unless your culture had a training against it, okay? Oh is what naturally comes out of humans, not horses and dogs, but humans, when something is big or marvelous or impressive. Okay, ah is when something is obvious. Present. It's just it's just there. Okay, so oh my God, that was ugly. When it is in the guts, when it causes a feeling, when it produces a possible drama, is what we say. Okay, interlocution. Hey. Okay, And then it's when you want to talk to someone. Okay, so it's about being conscious and sharing ideas. So basically, we naturally have an experience of finding something wonderful or marvelous or big. Oh, it is normal for the human to express pure experiences just as they are. In Japan, when you hurt yourself, you don't say, ah, ooh, ow, something there just hurt me. Ah, ooh, ow. Okay? And when it was a little hurt, is ai. Okay, e. In Japan, it's because T is the letter of structure, and because of so much population in a so small piece of land who practice Zen Buddhism, everything is strict and you can't express what you feel. So you repress it. So when you hurt yourself, you say T, 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 T. Okay? So unless your culture has something against it, naturally we all express sound to refer to experiences. And for every consonant and every vowel, there's a system of that. Okay? Sanskrit and Hebrew was based somewhat on that pure experience language. Okay? So basically, by using Sanskrit words that you don't understand, okay, M is vibration. If you say M long enough, for 1 minute and keep going, your head will vibrate inside. M is vibration, so energy and vibration and frequency. Okay? So when you say universal, big, intense, O, vibration, so Om, the typical Om, universal vibration, universal consciousness. Om. It's not the sound of universal consciousness, because if I listen to universe, I don't hear Om. No, it doesn't. It is simply that we express concepts through these kinds of sound. And Sanskrit was born with that. A lot of masters have no idea where Om comes from. Oh, it's the sound of the universe. You say Om and you merge with the universe. Why does it work? Because you're thinking about merging with the universe, and your psychosomatic focus does that. Because you do it long enough, it'll happen. Okay? But Om comes from the feeling of immensity, of wonderfulness and vibration. And it's not a mystery. It is quite basic. So from practicing and learning it, actually I built that system by practicing mantra and consonant and vowel over so much time, using the Hebrew and the Devanagari alphabet, just to understand. I don't speak Hebrew and Sanskrit, but I know enough to read the mantras and understand where it comes from. So from this point on, I could describe experiences. So when you see the mantras, a lot of them are traditional, but some of them I've made myself. And we must not take too much risk of creating, I want to create a mantra too. Everyone wants to be an X-Men. The thing is, if you don't fundamentally understand the purity of experiences as they are, you make mantras because you like it, and it becomes auto-suggestion, and it works. So when I create a mantra, I take the time, I practice. What does it do? What does it create inside? And then I know this will refer to a specific experience. And then those who don't have the experience, if they recite the mantra, the sound can bring you back there. There's the Harry Potter, Star Wars metaphysics. There's that, the energy of the mantra. Yes. Okay. Because it's not just physical, it's not just psychosomatic. But there's also the soul and body experience. This sound causes that. So the vibrational part that the New Agers like, it's the vibration. Yeah, well, why is it the vibration? Because when I do M, my head vibrates. Okay. So yeah, the mantras are built not on some metaphysical system that we can't explain. It is through objective observation of sound to actual experience we feel in those contexts. So that's mantras. And in the book that you have now in Kujian, it's very mantra based. In the book, I wrote 22 mantras that are not to charge. It's not something that you have to spend months on. It's to say that chapter, I want to feel the resolution of it. Okay, because most is on, this is the problem, this is a resolution. Okay, how I just want to go, yeah, you go to there and you have those mantras. At the end, I just put them to 22 with a very quick summary that won't compensate for the hours of contemplation of the chapter and say, what does it mean for me to be alone, to feel suffering, to feel happiness? to feel conflicted. I'm happy, but the other's an asshole. Yeah, so you're not at peace. Okay. So understanding the ego in that sense. And then the mantras accompany if you want. But they're not only mystical forces of the unseen. They're very basic. And those mantras work for humans because a horse would not make these sounds to refer to the same thing. It's really human based. Yeah.
There's a correspondence between parts of the book, the chapters, and the mantra. So to speak, contemplating and understanding each section, the mantra is the cherry on top, where you put it all into a condensed form. And then if you want to
spiritualists, some of them, they say, okay, what can I do? Like the Don Chen lovers, the mantra lovers. Okay, I want to practice something about this. Okay, well, here you go. Because I have to answer all the clienteles, the philosophers, the scientists, and the metaphysicians, and the spiritual, the occultists who want to do magic. Yeah, so here we go.
Beautiful.
Pretty cool.
I think those mantras are so powerful because the two languages you're talking about are ET root languages, and it's not like it's a language of an ET. It's more like foundational sounds that affect the matter and consciousness of creation.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these religions, they use those. Sanskrit, for example, it's one of the oldest languages ever existed. And they don't want people discovering this language. Kind of like we talked about this a couple shows ago about Sanskrit is so powerful that if humans learned it, they would start affecting reality big time because you're learning the keys to access the sounds. And I wanted to go into advanced non-distinction after this, but earlier you were talking about in all my sessions, the tenet of detachment and separation always comes up, controlling your emotions. And what it comes down to, everything I've learned with philosophy is you can't change what's happening when it's happening, but you can choose to not respond to it.
Exactly. We have to be careful with the word control your emotion because you must never control your emotions. However, you must not let your emotions control you. The idea of controlling your emotions usually lead people to repress. Don't repress, don't express. Embody and go through it. You have to suffer it and it'll dissolve. So it's not just control emotions.
Like earlier you were saying that the person in my face causing this drama, you're not realizing that they're suffering big time. And if you add fire to that, it adds to more suffering. So
exactly.
in the heat of the moment, you can choose to not engage. You can choose that no response is the best response. It's not like you're controlling your emotions. You're choosing to not let it manipulate you and produce that push and pull effect where you're going
I would admit there's a intentional denial that is acceptable. When you're saying, I'm not going to let my emotion carry me into an action or a verb, there is a repression there. It is an intentional, I am going to control this right now, just so I don't put more venom in the situation. However, later I'll have to sit and just let it all out and bitch the other guy in silence and then accept that, why am I, if the guy called me an idiot and it hurt me, it's because somewhere inside me believes I'm an idiot. And I hate that part of me. It's all about something inside me was vulnerable to the attack. Because he could have spoken and say, yeah, I am an idiot. Aren't we all? Because, I've discovered that I am also. I'm one with everything, but not that. There's a judgment in oneness. I want to be one with everything, but not this shit. Not that. Okay. I'm not, if you don't want to be an idiot, you won't be one with everything, So now we're moving into this advanced non-distinction. We're talking to be capable in a state of compassion, to also look at yourself as a killer without killing, of course, don't do that, but to look at yourself as someone capable of. And all the atrocities, I'm capable of war. I hate people when do war, but how long have I been stuck about that ex who left me? So it's too easy to judge and not recognizing that's what nature does. We're here to learn through that motion of black and white and gray. There's happiness, there's suffering, there's peace, and there's the absence of peace. So if I recognize myself in the potential of the evil that I judge and understand it's just atoms reassembling. Someone dies, it's just atoms reassembling. Someone is born, it's just atoms reassembling. Life is wonderful, but there's also atoms reassembling in a sun. and in the earth. Why am I more marvelous than the other? Because they murdered? Because they raped? That's a hard one. When I teach this and they're rape victims in the class and they can't, it's over. They do not hear the class anymore. Where I'm saying it is so important to bring justice to the abusers. So important. Punishing them with, like for me, they would go for life, you know. But they don't hear that because the trauma is too strong in them. He just said that the murderer is as wonderful as I am. Yeah, it's very hard to do the practice of non-distinction to this point. I would still go and feed the murderer. I would hug in my arms for him to be happier and make sure he never kills again. You know, it's so hard to apply a virtuous mindset with no condition. A mother will have unconditional love to her son regardless what he does, but it's conditional that it's her son, so it's not unconditional. A mother would unconditionally love her son conditionally that it's her son, because if anyone else than her son did that, there would not be love, there would be hatred. We throw unconditional love in New Age groups and philosophical groups so easily. I feel unconditional love. Okay, let's bring a rapist, a murderer, a child abuser, a slave trafficker in front of you, and let's have a chat about the economy of slavery. Let's talk about how you love them unconditionally after that. Be exposed to it. Contemplate the news. Can I feel the suffering that I suffer from this abomination? And find the inherent perfection of the universe just doing stuff to grow in the Dharma. It's pretty hard. We throw out fancy words like compassion and unconditional love without really realizing the severity at which we have to apply it. I am in a quest to reach this point of severity of applying virtue where I could have a perfected state of mind all the time. Like Sakyamuni Buddha said that he also has to meditate and do his personal growth because he gets pissed off every now and then. You know, and he's one of the most perfected bodhisattvas that was ever, but he says every day, on his last day, he got pissed at a student, you know? So, I mean, we're all human once we're here.
I'm a great example of everything you're teaching because I learned a long time ago, forgiveness is the most important part of it. And like I said, I've been through these illegal programs. And through this technique, I have actually met the people that abused me. And we discovered what they did to me as a child under the hypnosis session. And even those memories were blocked within them. And one of the first emotions that comes up when you're under in a vulnerable position, when you just discovered that the guy's presentation that you just watched the day before on stage was talking about what you did to him when he was a child.
Yeah.
And when you face the rapists, the abusers, the programmers, the people that treated you like animals like they did to us.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of them throughout these years at conferences, all kinds of stuff. And no matter who it was, even though if I remembered them and what they did, I forgave every single one. I converted.
You have to observe that if they were at your conference, it means at some level they're on a path of personal growth. So they are growing too.
Yeah, so you have to understand a lot of us made contracts to go through this abuse from a higher point of view before we step into the physical body. So judging people's experiences is stupid because we signed contracts for a lot of this stuff or agreements to help us evolve with what you would say karma is and just to experience life. And that's the thing that's freed me. So again, a lot of my clients, they don't know how to release that. They don't know how to forgive. They don't know how to live in the now because most of the time they're living in fear of the future or memories of the past. And neither of those moments exist. There's no now. Yeah. And it causes distortion, disease, health problems, all kinds of stuff.
If I may do a parenthesis about the contracts, considering that those contracts are subjective and cannot be demonstrated because it has to do on those who have understood and have experienced it can say we had a contract, we made a deal, but those who have not, they cannot accept there's a contract just as a pure truth. I would like to add on your explanation, if contracts are real, then we made contracts, so we kind of agreed, but nothing in me remembers agreeing and he should fuck off anyway. And if contracts don't exist, it doesn't change the fact that if we remove the contractual karma of these experience and just say, by forgiving,
Yes.
I'm not justifying what they did, but I'm healing anyway. Then the part that we can't demonstrate because it's metaphysical, it remains valid just in the facts that the healing will be a better state of being than the rancor or the nourishing of the blame, you know?
Yeah, and the fact that you have the lifetime with that person that creates that trauma means you
Yeah.
didn't forgive them before this incarnation, and you're replaying something you have to learn as a tenant,
Yeah.
like let it go. It no longer
Yeah.
exists. Just forgive. Look what you learned from this. It made you powerful. It literally made me powerful for what I went through as a kid. Um, Very powerful. And
Yeah.
I
You
would
get to
not
work
be
with
this
what you have.
powerful unless you go through the suffering, through the detachment, through doing what you did, like what Buddha did. You lived that kind of homeless life on the street and rejected the material stuff to understand what the true source of suffering is, to be judged by people, to live day by day without all the material stuff and to
Yeah.
reject it. And like that's the root of all suffering. Um, Literally just material and not forgiving. And you can never just be in the moment, man. So that's the crux of it all. Just forgive everybody, man. Let it go. Because if the
Yeah.
fact that
Let
you
that
can't
shit
let
go.
it go, you are emotionally weak. Period. You have to learn it no
It is a
longer exists.
process. It is a process. Telling ourselves mentally, just let it go, is not going to be enough, but it's a starting point. It is an essential starting point to intellectually and mentally decide, I have to let that shit go. But it will not be enough because what you say in your mind, there's a part in your heart that doesn't hear the words, that doesn't understand. Or the example of asking the cook to repair the plumbing in the kitchen, you need a plumber. The mental plane does not have what it takes, even through its decision of detaching and letting go, to resolve something at another plane, which is emotional, which is the compacted anger and emotion that is there. And until we learn to deal with that at the emotional level, it will take time to dissolve. It will take a long time to dissolve. So emotional integration is I've chosen to let go. That gives me access to the trauma. Now I can cry it or live it or embrace it or go through the motions of forgiveness, and the release process can happen on the emotional level. But just a warning, to anyone who say, I'm going to let that go, say it as much as you want. It actually helps. And it's essential that the mental plane too will be happy with the letting go. But the work is on the emotional level and what is above the mental plane, which is the Dharma plane, the plane of wisdom. What am I here to learn? What am I grasping from greater wisdom of the inherent perfection that this is what we came to live?
Now, all of this goodness is part of the Kujian. So
Yes.
step by step by step. So I'm thinking kind of you've come full circle, haven't you? In a very wonderful way.
In
It's
the
kind of
sense that it is compatible. I'm writing the Mahavajra Sutra on life and death. I'm currently writing it. So it will come out one day on the concepts of life and death. A bit like the Tibetans of the past wrote the book of life and death, the book of death. And has nothing to do with they write. It has to like a deepening of our conception of the meaning of life, if you want. Um, it's not like if I intentionally wrote something at a moment now that complements or went full circle with Kujian. It is what you experienced that it came full circle in the sense that it all makes sense. Like everything I teach, it's all connected simply because everything is all connected. And I do not take time teaching something that I cannot bring. Like I'm a great amateur of the idea of reincarnation, like a lot of spiritualists, but I will not say that it is real until I can objectively um, demonstrate it. Although there's a lot of studies about it, but in my crowd, I have to expose everything, whether reincarnation exists and we came for a purpose, or you're just here without a purpose. That wisdom works. So detach from any background you could have or any required belief you have, because if you don't have a belief, then you can't digest my system about that because you don't believe in reincarnation, or you're not a vegan. I mean, considering that Sakyamuni Buddha was not a vegan, I'm not a vegan. Okay. But oh my God, when I have a steak and a glass of red wine with a bunch of Buddhist masters and New Agers around me, my God, they lose their shit. It's like, well, I mean, Sakyamuni clearly said that declaring ourselves vegetarian is arrogance. Take the food that is there and just eat it. However, don't go kill an animal just for me, but it fills the temple. I mean, all right, why not? It's food, you know? So he was an omnivore, so that's another misconception. But if I am not a vegan, I'm really inclined to veganism, by the way. It's very rare. But, I'm not going to judge what I'm served in that sense. I don't have this thing that says we will eventually hit a dogmatic wall based on behaviors of sexual practice, of gender attribution. Now today, all the couple can have up to 8 people of 8 different genders. And just 20 years ago, there's people angry at me. Even they put complaints and reviews like, this guy should go to jail and shit like that, because they are Judeo-Christian people, that the family is built that way. And I'm just a mature, responsible man that sometimes I got close to someone and oh my God, the Christian belt in the US, this Bible belt. Oh my God, I was not really welcomed in that area from a few old people who were very old style. So basically, I'm not going to tell you what is the truth. I don't know. The universe did so much stuff. Some mammals are exclusive. Some mammals fuck around everywhere. I find that there's suffering in fucking around, so I don't do it. But I don't believe in the construct either that the Christians brought and the Jewish Christian. I mean, there's too much laws. I'm in favor of respecting. If I eat meat, I eat meat. If I don't, I don't. How you build your relationships. Be wise. Don't break people's heart. Just don't go and wreak havoc in the world. But there's no rule about it. There's just responsibility, and be compassionate. So it still keeps a high morale on my behavior because I want to be compassionate, but I do not adhere to antiquated, old system of thoughts that are literally a limitation to progress in spirituality. So I will not proclaim we had a contract or not. There could be or not. Let's go to a wisdom that works either way. We might reincarnate or not. Let's go. I mean, and it's kind of tempting to go to the karmic inclinations. It's very tempting because, I've experienced stuff, but I'm not going to put in my book something that requires someone to just blindly believe me. If they can read the Dharma on its own and experience it on their own, they'll go to their own conclusions, which in the end will be similar or compatible to mine, because there's one universe and we're all in it.
That is so refreshing. And this is not easy. I know it's not easy for you to intentionally remove the dogma, and so it becomes universally accessible.
Yeah, it is more exciting than troubling, but sometimes troubling. Not disappointing, in the sense that I have to sit, how the hell am I going to explain that thing without using this argument that I cannot objectively prove with no doubt? Like, I lose access to the subjective tools that I used to have to say, well, let's just consider that God exists. There is a God. Now, well, wait, is there a God? I can't say it. I can speak of my experience of the universal stream of consciousness in all things, undefined and non-anthropomorphic. What does that mean? Okay, we'll talk about it. But is there a God? Is there no God? And yeah, okay. And then the Buddhist says, but there is no God. Oh, well, why did Vimalmitra and Sakyamuni pray Brahma as their daily routine, like a good Hindu master? Why do you not do what the master did to become like him? I don't get that. Why must you be ascetic, vegetarian, without alcohol, without sex, to become like Krishna in your yoga? But Krishna had wives, sex, alcohol, ate meat. Okay, so why must you not be a human being to become a divine being when the guy who divinized himself did exactly the things you judge? I mean, I don't get that. So I lose a lot of the tools because every people have their their strategy. Sakyamuni lived with his wife all his life. You think he played cards every night? No, he had a normal life with his wife. He was married. You know what I mean? So you go and judge everything that Sakyamuni or Krishna or Jesus did, but you want to become like them? The fuck? You know, you have to understand there's thousands of years of alteration of old text. I have to take them all out of my teachings. Try not to offend those who adhere to those teachings because they have the freedom to do that. And just say, look at the facts that I can establish, that you could agree or not and decide to proceed or not. It is a tremendous amount of work to look back on my wisdom and not fall into, antiquated traps. It is a tremendous. This is the biggest part of any writing. It's to remove the bullshit or the possible labyrinths. Yeah.
And that is such a rare thing. You're truly the Mahavajra, or an embodiment of this. This is no easy task.
I like the idea of the proxy or the embodiment. Yeah. The real Mahavajra is a universal concept that cannot fit in a single human, of course.
As close as possible, there we go. Because
you appreciate it, and I take the compliment. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're not the only one. I get it.
It's not easy, honestly. Creating a curriculum that is effective, efficient, and non-offensive, and applicable to humanity.
Yeah. Non-offensive, parenthesis here. I don't wear white gloves. And I do not wear iron glove. I'm not going to be afraid if someone gets offended because I just said, Jesus had sex. I mean, I'm not going to be afraid of the reaction of others. Others will get offended by themselves because you wear red on the 15th of the day. Okay, I'm sorry, but if on the 15th of the month you can't wear red because Brahma and Shiva will be angry at you, I think there's a problem here because the divine did not create the universe Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Time is man-made. Nothing can fit specifically on the 15th. There's a construct there. So there will be people who will be offended. Now, if I go to a Hindu crowd, I will try to put a red t-shirt on that 15 if I get to give a class. Just so that they have to work through, whatever they have to work through. I'm not provocative. I'm just showing them. In public, I won't do it. I won't intentionally be that asshole. I don't want to be the annoying guy. But the idea that if you come to a personal growth seminar on spirituality and that you desire to look at your ego to feel yourself of suffering, okay, how does that feel, the color I'm wearing? Well, I can't trust you anymore. Good. So now you have put a barrier of your own. So please don't trust me. Just listen to the Dharma and apply it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And in the end, that person did not, because I really did it, that person did not need to trust me. Because as a master, who proves to you I'm a Buddha or enlightened? Nothing. It doesn't matter. I might be the master of garbage picking. You don't know that. What matters is how do you feel in your own growth when you apply the wisdom and you have grown. And that's it. Don't trust me. Don't fear me. Don't give a shit. It's all about the Dharma. That's the point. If I needed someone to bow to me and recognize the divine incarnate, I wouldn't be where I am. I know myself as God. I don't need someone to bow and prove it. Why would I need someone to tell me I'm divine? I don't care. I need to tell you you're divine. That's my job. You're the one who doesn't know now or have glimpsed it and want to know more. That's my job. I go in seminar, I prostrate to all the students. You are my Lord. You are my Father. You are my beloved mother. You're the one I serve. You're the one who needs the tools. What can I do? That's how it works. So there's a lot of antiquated, the idea of authority of spirituality, you obey the master. Oh my God, there's no obedience in spirituality. That makes no sense. The master is in a state of service for others to grow, or else, screw the master, It's really, it's a hard job to just be me and all these old Buddhist guy judging that there's not these structural dogmatic rules and laws, and yeah, no, bro, I just got here. I'm just teaching, man. I'm just another dude. I was pissed off yesterday. You want to talk about it? You know, it's simple, humble power. It's not power. It's simple, humble power, just as it is.
Wow. I'd like to read a little
Please.
from your recent book, Walk Toward Buddhahood, but do not become proud of your sandals. Incarnate the divine, but do not announce it loudly to the furniture. Breathe, inhabit, feel, observe, and remove what feeds non-enlightenment.
Exactly.
So
that's the chapter on simple, complex Zen Buddhism to stop attaining non-enlightenment. So I want to go. The idea that there's a work towards enlightenment, there is a work towards enlightenment. Okay, people say we just stop not being enlightened. Enlightenment is our true nature. I mean, it's semantics. Let's not get lost in words. Let's not trip on the flowers on the carpet pattern. Okay, let's not. Okay. But there is a point where it's about ceasing to nourish what is non-enlightened. Okay, so stop attaining non-enlightenment. I gave that title because I said for 20 years one day I'm going to write a book about it. It's a chapter, and basically don't expose, don't hide. People ask me, "Are you a divine incarnation?" Yeah, you too. The difference is I know and you don't. So let's work on that. It's not a pompous ass title. It is not. You know, like Buddhahood, you know, the Buddha got frustrated the last day of his life. People want to think that the Bodhisattva is absolutely not troubled ever. We've put Buddhas and avatars on pedestals that never felt anything. I mean, imagine Jesus on his last day. I think he'd have a bad trip right now, you know, like the masters we studied, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Melchizedek, they have gone through human experiences so clearly, and we visualize them as people who go through nothing. My father just died. I'm fucked up. And I'm liberated from his passing. Finally, he's done suffering the sickness. But, you know, it's my dad. He's died. So this idea of what Buddha once, second when he said, I love that's one system I might refer to from the past because it's still actual. Anyone who comes with a knife, surprisingly, the most enlightened, the most Buddhified person would be in shock and awe and hurt. But if someone who is enlightened gets prepared, have the time to see the blade, gets introduced to the fact, I'm going to cut you now, this Buddha, while still suffering, could still stay in a state of compassion towards the cutter. That means that if something comes with a surprise, you might lose compassion. You might be offended at other people. You might get pissed off. Basically, you're a human as long as you're here. This is the samsara. This is where stuff happens. Okay. So this idea that we put people on a pedestal, that they're so fucking marvelous, the solution is not for us to get on the pedestal to be like the Buddha. It's to take the Buddha back on the ground and say, okay, look, you're my inspiration, Sakyamuni. I'm not there yet, but I can. We can work on it. And Sakyamuni Buddha and Samantabhadra also, with the Dandapati Dharani expressed, get to this point where you know that you will enlighten and then reach Buddhahood, because they're two different things. Because if we're evolving and we accept whatever it's in this life or lifetime by lifetime, if we're evolving, necessarily at one point it'll be there. So why do you guys keep saying that you can't be a Buddha, can't be enlightened, when it's the only possible outcome of being on a path of evolution? Do you understand the contradiction? So the idea of the passage you just said, don't announce that you're a divine incarnation to the furniture, like work in a Buddhified state, just conscious that you're conscious, and practicing compassion for all beings, and it comes with time and states of oneness and great forgiveness. But don't be proud of your sandals. I mean, you are not more marvelous than someone else or less. It's disengage the self-importance aspect. That's a big amount of work. And then people hear, You say you're a Buddha. Well, according to my definition, yes. According to your definition, no. I'm far from being a Buddha, according to your definition. I agree. Because you put Buddha in a way that is unattainable. I like to use the definition of Sakyamuni Buddha himself. And yeah, I'm there like a shitload of people I actually know who suffer every day, but can forgive a murderer. Yeah, anytime. That doesn't make you a Buddha. When you can forgive a murderer, it makes you a saint. It's a progress, you know, a holy person who gets pissed off but can still forgive a murderer. It's stages. So thank you for the passage. It's that passage, chapter 19, because the 22 chapters are also associated to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet and the 22 components of the human ego. So anyway, all of this works together, and it takes a lot of work on yourself to not hide. Are you Buddha? Yeah. You can get there. Yeah. I mean, it's work. It's a lot of work, but you can, yeah, it's possible. Okay. And then, okay, let's go take a beer. Let's chill out, man. Just simplicity, just as it is, you know. And to get to this point, first, we go to all these great awakenings, these enlightenment stages, and then the desire to proclaim, I have achieved Buddhahood. Be honest. Do you want someone else to recognize your Buddhahood? If yes, no, you're not. If there's anything inside you that is still hoping for your opinion to be respected, no. Because if someone does not respect my opinion, I don't care. I can't prove it, by the way, but that's really the state I'm in. I don't care. Because I'm here to provide the wisdom for people to grow if they want to, respecting the freedom of someone who doesn't give a shit about me. So yeah, be offended. It's cool. I'm going to pray for the liberation of all beings, whether through the practice of this sutra or not. Doesn't matter. It's what I exist for.
Amir, that quote you read in chapter 19 about the shiny shoes, it really hit me because it reminds me of the quote, sharpen your sword in a room with no windows. Because it's the ego wanting to be seen, to show that perfection. And like, you have to realize you don't need it no more. And it was only the ego holding you back. So do the things you need to do and don't publicize it. Don't put all your moves on social media. Don't announce what you're doing. Just exist and live life, man. Stop needing other people to tell you you're doing good and giving you thumbs up and shit and fucking likes. It doesn't truly, it doesn't even.
But also don't hide it. If everyone who made it to a certain point and they said, no, I'm not a master. Oh, no, I've not ever experienced enlightenment. Who am I to teach enlightenment to people if I've never experienced it? You know, so don't expose, don't repress, just make yourself available. There's this idea called false humility, where you must not ever share with others when I actually ask you a question. Hey, can you teach me about enlightenment? Yes, I can, because I've lived through it multiple times and I can, you know, share my experience. The false humility of you must never proclaim, you must never admit, you must never show. At one point, if the swordsman shine his swords, always hiding, but people are looking for a great master to learn swordsmanship, and the guy is still useless because he's going to have a shiny sword and he'll never teach anything to no one. So at one point, every metaphor has a flaw, by the way. At one point, don't expose, don't hide. Just say, hey, what about this wisdom? I never say publicly, expose and exaggerately what I've experienced in the stage of awakening, of enlightenment, Buddhahood, whatever. I don't say that unless it's about a book and we're talking about the topic. In public, no one knows me. I do the grocery, no one knows me. Absolutely no one, except in an interview like this where, well, yeah, I'm going to say it, because if someone wants to learn with a guy who has some level of competence, then they have to know. But that's it. For the goal of people to know it's possible, and that I'm not the only one. I know other people who are Buddhified in their brain. They act with virtue. They have a severity in their compassion that is incalculable. It is extraordinary to see these people. So it's a non-exclusive state of being for all. Don't hide it, because that's false humility. When you're exposing it, your ego is doing something about it to get something out of it. And when you're hiding it, you're still in control of the states. You're not flowing with the Dharma. Do not expose, like you yourself, you told me, I've done this core of hypnotism, I've done this class, I have done that. Oh, yes, I've learned forgiveness this way. You don't hide it. You have learned that. This is what you are. You don't want flowers out of it. You want us to continue the conversation. You see, it's all about the Dharma. So in that sense, false humility comes in the New Age world to chastise those who are not enlightened or those who are enlightened, because too many are not. Okay, I get this. The charlatan will naturally fade away. The solution to that is don't pay attention to the guy. Don't pay attention to the person. Look at the teaching and look at his students. If a person is surrounded by students who are full of shit, stuck with suffering, their head full of barrages, never going to progress into full forgiveness, cannot feel oneness, do you want to become one of those disciples? Don't do that. You know, look at the students and their progress and test the Dharma yourself. Never consider the state of the master, because that will give you nothing. Don't repress. Don't express. Just be there.
Fluidity, that flow.
Yeah.
And you just gave the antidote to, let's just say, corporate spirituality. People that do not have the goods but are inflated. They reach
a long time ago, I was angry and jealous of Anthony Robbins because he made it big. When I still measured Dharma and, you know, had self-importance about it, up to the point I realized how much he has brought so many millions of people on a spiritual path, because he gave stepping stones, and he actually has a few tools that are like go up, but then it's in a commercial thing. There's always going to be business around. You know, you don't feel pressured, but you must absolutely sign up to the next seminar. It's only $2,000. Compromise today so you can manifest it. Wait, some people have sold their household and not pay rent and got into suffering for that. So there has to be a balance. Nonetheless, Anthony Robbins brought in volume, in quantity, so much tools that, you know, it was just this childish, you know, jealous young guy who wants to make it. And it's cool. You know, it's cool. It's the Dharma is flowing. The Dharma is flowing. And so I understood that the benefit of what all these corporate New Agers have done, they've been part of the wheel of inherent perfection. This is where it was, which is fine, which is actually I'm grateful for, because now a lot of these people say, hey, I went to study with Muji, or I went to study with Eckhart Tolle, or I read your books. And, you know, like there's people opening up to different sources that they can progress beyond the corporateness of it.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So why do you think suffering seems so deeply woven into spiritual growth and awakening in general, why it affects us so much?
Can I have a 1-minute biological break? I need it.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
I'll be there. One minute and a half, and then I'll pick over. Could we go with the question that you asked before I ask for a break? And then remember all the other stuff you want to
know. What did I ask?
About suffering.
Trying to remember.
Basically, you asked what is suffering.
Okay, yeah.
And you ask a longer question about how does suffering come and everything. And
yeah. Why does suffering seem so deeply woven into the spiritual framework, and it doesn't? What are some of the main things other than forgiveness that you can teach us before we get into like how to remove limitations on like meditation and stuff, like getting rid of that monkey mind in order to achieve these heightened states?
Okay. What is suffering is an important thing to understand before we can answer your question of why is suffering woven into the spiritual world. When you get into a warm bath of hot water, it's warm. You feel it intensely. And after just a minute or two, you don't feel it as warm. And it's not because the water lost 5, 10 degrees in one shot. It's because you got used to the warmth. Okay. So if you want to still feel the same embracing warmth, you had to put hotter water and then hotter water up to the point that you reach that you would hurt the system. You would hurt your body if it's even hotter. Okay. Take that metaphor that we get used to stimuli in a certain way. The universe did not intend suffering. Suffering is how we perceive and experience it. It is real and it has to be dealt with, but it was not intended. It's simply how we go through the motions, through satisfaction and unsatisfaction. Okay, I'll take an example. When you're satisfied of a desire, you get used to the feeling of satisfaction. So this is the temperature of your satisfaction. You need something even more satisfying to feel the same degree of satisfaction. And if we keep satisfying all the desires all the time, we become a little capricious bitch who needs an absolute amount of satisfaction of everything. And out of contrast, any little thing that is unsatisfying troubles us dramatically. Because we always satisfy all our desires, we become highly affected by the contrast, something that comes to offend us, something that comes to, I'm so mad because I want to do what I want and I can't do everything I want right now. Because we have unaccustomed ourselves to not having everything we desire. The solution is not to reject desire, but to let go of this addiction to satisfaction. In other words, as we do not satisfy ourselves constantly, we become more acquainted with being unsatisfied or dissatisfaction. Therefore, the experience of dissatisfaction becomes more comfortable. It's like the hot water or the cold water. It's just another information that we get used to. And then smaller events that are satisfying are rich again because we have resensitized ourselves to satisfaction. Okay. So in this sense, the infatuation we have with self-importance and now our ego has to be privileged. That is a great cause of suffering because we always need more validation, more validation, more validation. And the slight suggestion that someone doesn't like us, bam, we go, I don't care if someone doesn't like me. I don't care what people think of me. Easy to say. But if you hear the story that the hairstylist of the guy who mows your lawn, that has no relation to you, okay? Actually, the hairstylist of the guy who mows the lawn of your best friend's aunt, okay? That's how far you are from this guy. He thinks you're a fucking idiot. What? Immediately, if you hear a story, you're gonna be really affected, or at least a bit affected. Asshole, whether you're gonna build an opinion, you're gonna go into a story. It's so easy to say, I don't care what people think of me until you hear that someone is thinking something about you. Because the slight little aggression to the ego comes in like a hammer. Because we were used to being praised and loved and cared. So our need to be loved by everyone, no exception. There's 78 people who love me and 3 who don't. Okay, we need to resolve that 3 who don't. Do you understand? Because we got so accustomed to the protective embrace of love and compassion that others should have for me. They should resolve their disrespect and grow in compassion, so I don't have to resolve it. Basically, they should do personal growth, so I don't have to do personal growth. If the other insults me, it's them the problem. It's not the fact that I felt insulted. They should stop insulting people, so I don't have to resolve my issue. We get so accustomed to the value of self that someone degrades our value and bam. So all of this going into hot water and then you put cold water, satisfying our desires makes us intolerable and unsatisfiable. Every new satisfaction that comes doesn't care, doesn't matter, because we're used to satisfaction, but every unsatisfaction hits like hard and we become attached to desire, which is nice to have it, but When you don't have it, you don't have it. You let go, you know. So that accustoming, you see, I did it with hot water, with desire, with value of self, applied to everything. Suffering is the amount of pressure we have inside regarding a reaction to a situation of life. And we're not accustomed to embrace it, so they throw us off. When you do emotional integration, you get used to, let's face it, let's just walk the pain, let's go into it and face it and accept that it's not always roses and chocolates. And, you know, sometimes it's painful, it's unpleasant. You go through the motions, and then a suffering comes and it's not that dramatic. And a pleasure comes, a happiness comes, it has all its value with the least possible stimulation. Some people misunderstood the Pleadian seize the day, okay? This jovialist philosopher who says, go and get the most amount of pleasure and satisfaction, and people stop there. Because what Euclid brought is get the most amount of satisfaction with the least amount of stimulation. People don't want to hear that part. It's seize the day, always profit and get the maximum all the time. That's not the Euclidean way. That's not what was taught in the great philosophy of the past. I'm not sure if it's Euclid, but I think it is. The full phrase is get the most satisfaction of the least possible stimulation. Get used to have just the carrot and rejoice of everything it has to offer. You know, so that you don't always need the luxury food and the spices all the time, because the more you do, at one point you'll get sick. And that's the point. That's the same with alcohol. Have a little sip, and that's that. Until you get to the point you need to get freaking wasted and you destroy yourself in the process, because that joy is pushed overboard. You know, so look at suffering like that. It's all about, we got accustomed to comfort to a point that we are so blocked by suffering. And the solution is to embrace the suffering and still celebrate the happiness and the beautiful moment and cherish peace. Peace is in the middle. Peace is really what we want. Hey, do you want eternal happiness? I don't know. If the bullshit stops, that could be a good place to start, right? And actually peace, and that's how Sakyamuni Buddha expresses it, peace is an extremely soft amount of joy that persists. It's not explosive. It's not extraordinary. And it is the most cherishable because you're always fine, you know? And from there's a root of being centered, the middle way, when you're having your power. So that is suffering. It's just the amount of pressure that we stop getting used to it. So we become picky. In that sense, we cannot say that someone has suffered more than another. Because if someone was raped, beaten, abused, oppressed, bullied, they also got used to the suffering and they got stuff to work with. Someone who never had that, good karma, all right, but the slight little thing comes and throw them off because they have not gotten used to the suffering. I'm not saying that people should go through the military hardship of a young, hard life. No. I'm saying that everyone will suffer at the end of a life about the equal, more or less, because the least suffering you had in your life, each of them were more present. And the more suffering you had in your life, all of them had less to pressure you. So in the end, it's all about if we embrace the suffering or not. It's not how much suffering we had. It's about if you embrace it or not. Because you get used to it. It's closer to the mechanics of fluids and the laws of thermodynamics, of just pressures, than any other philosophical thing that, you know, the soul came for an experience. And of course it did, but we can't say it without proof. Cool. So that's suffering. Just get used to it. And then you have what it takes to embrace the Dharma behind it.
Yeah, because
that mindset. Yeah.
I was just thinking that's what produces a diamond. That constant pressure of a push and pull makes you strong, and it forces you to either learn from it and learn the lesson, or evolve or not.
Yes, pressure can create diamonds and can also create rubbles and destroy everything. So the pressure must be managed in the proper condition. It's not just pressure. Pressure by itself, it can transform or destroy depending on how you were attached to the thing that just changed. But it's pressure in the proper settings with the proper components, because pressure could also just destroy everything. We have to be mindful about this metaphor, because it doesn't mean like, yeah, yo, pressure is good. Yeah, not always. Sometimes it makes you weird at parties and, nervous crisis. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or it makes you weird at parties,
Yes. Yes.
What doesn't kill you can break you. So we have to be careful.
What doesn't kill me better run.
It's another one. What doesn't kill you, maybe it's just not done with you. So there's so many ways of saying it, but yeah, it better run if you have that mindset. Defending yourself is a good thing also. I'm an amateur of martial arts. I have not practiced for a long time since an accident. 53. My body says, you got punched enough, you got to stop. But I understand the principle.
Yeah, I've been a martial artist for almost 4 decades. I do martial arts about 7 days a week. I either shadow box in my mind or I do it in the physical.
Yeah.
Like once it becomes who you are, you can't stop.
Well, if it's you are, perfect. It's not who I am. I've not done it to this point, but always, but never that deep. In any case, what I've done that it's me, it's contemplation of higher states of being, which was your next question about meditation. Okay. Stopping your mind is impossible, or not without mental violence. So why would you do that? If you look at the surface of a bowl of water and you see waves and you want them to stop with your hands, stop, 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 stop. You just make more waves. The solution is to look at the bowl and wait. It'll calm down. In 5 minutes or 10 years, that's meditation. You allow yourself to take a focus tool, but you give no energy to what does not participate. The fantasy that made you think about your credit card or a bunny down the hole, the thing that made you do something else than the contemplation, don't nourish it. But when you realize you're pursuing another train of thought, just come back to your practice. And that's why we use a mantra and a philosophical concept to meditate. We'll think about Yatta Bhuta, okay? Just as it is, Yatta Bhuta. You just recite Yatta Bhuta, just as it is. And everything in your head that is not simple, just as it is, don't be angry. Like, look at the amount of effort. The meditation is an exercise of patience, of tolerance, of forgiveness. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it. Just give yourself a chance. So you sit, and the goal of meditation is not to be undisturbed, and it is certainly not to stop your mind. Oh, no. It is to have just enough concentration to focus mainly, more or less, on that concept. And you can use a Sanskrit term to fix it. Sometimes with Kuji-in, there's a mantra, a mudra. Okay, you'll have positions of the hands, and you'll have your visualization inside. You put more tools. So with Kuji-in, what makes it kind of efficient is you have to focus on 5 things at a time. Okay, the mudra, the chakra, the place in the body, the dharma, which is philosophy, the mandala, if you want, the colors, the visualization in the aura. You're just so focused on so many things that there's no place for the mind to flee much. So you really make an effort to have all of this all at the same time. But eventually you want to sit and just contemplate peace. And you look at the calm state of being, peace, and everything will rush in again. Don't mind that. And when you realize that you follow it, come back to peace. So proper meditation is not only in the head, it's also a state of being. So if you want to contemplate peace and it's too easy to disturb because everything comes and you're not at peace anymore, contemplate gratitude. I'm grateful. Grateful is not just in the head. You can feel something inside. Emotionally, in higher planes, gratitude comes as a state of being grateful. Gratitude, it's go, okay? Kritanya is the Sanskrit, gratitude. And you accept gratitude. Gratitude, because it's a richer feeling, it will occupy more space. So it'll be harder for you to follow another train of thought. But once you realize you do, it's okay. Just come back to gratitude. That simple introduction is the basics of meditation. It is an absence of battle, accepting that the mind is creative. It is part of the inherent perfection of the intellect to want to create, and it will create thoughts. It'll follow stories. It will do that. It's built for that. So don't hate your mind for doing what it's made for. And teach it that sometimes it can chill for a moment, slowly, not violently. You take gratitude and you contemplate kritanya or kritagya. If you're from a different part of India, you say kritagya, or gratitude, just gratitude. Merci beaucoup. You'll just, feel whatever will trigger you to just calmly stay there. And when you're ready, you add breath. I'm conscious that I'm breathing in a state of gratitude. Okay. And on that, then you trying to add different concepts. But basic meditation is non-violence to yourself. It's tolerance. It's completely acceptable that your emotions that are buried might rise, that your thoughts of your subconscious will show up. You finally give them a bit of room to play, they'll rise. During meditation, you don't do a full traumatic emotional integration. You try to go back to your meditative state. Until it's impossible, then okay, go to therapy. Move on to the integration part, go to the personal growth part if this is what it led you. But at least you've tried. A successful meditation is an attempt at meditation. That's all it is. You attempt to meditate, you've reached a success, you've done it. Then it's training. Now, if you want deeper states of oneness, you might want to train meditation until your mind will calm a bit. So it has to come with a state of being, a feeling. So eventually, the feeling of Aikya, the feeling of oneness, you'll experience it. And you'll feel that you're someone else and not you. You'll feel that you're a mountain. You'll experience out of self experiences momentarily. And then you're back. Oh, I felt oneness, but I was still here locally while I felt that I was a mountain there. You still will do it as a local entity, incarnate here. The locality doesn't dissolve, but you're not just that. You become something else too. And it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary to reach oneness, but you start with a state of kindness with yourself. Accept where your mind is at. And my mind is at, I've been alone. This is where my mind is at. I've been single since September last year. I spend an extreme amount of time alone in contemplation. I am lonely. My mom died in December. My father died last month. Everything that meant the family nucleus for me is gone. What do I do with that? So that's what I practice. My life is currently not allowing me to go into oneness and settled states. I have not lost bliss. So when you ask me how I felt at the beginning, how do you feel? I said wonderful and terrible, but mostly peace. That is exactly how I feel. I have these rushes of emotion. I see the picture of my mom and my dad. They both died in the last 5 months. It's like, what the fuck, man? What's happening was just, that's it, just practice. Embrace what rises. I loved being attached to them when I was attached to them. Now I let go. Okay. It's the next thing. It's what you have to be able to reach, living correctly the simple human life. Then the metaphysical concept and the unified streams of consciousness are available. If you're fighting with the simple local identity, you're fighting. It's subtle. The Brahma is subtle. The divine is so subtle. If we're filled with gross hatred and vengeance, and I'm unsatisfied because the other called me an idiot and he should have seen the greatness. I am great. Why do they not see it? Okay. So basically, yeah, I'm attached to others seeing my greatness. I will not see greatness ever again. I will not have a feeling of oneness if I'm attached to someone giving me importance. Because in importance, you are necessarily separated. There is no oneness in self-importance. There's literally me better than others. Bam, no oneness. Nothing can happen in a universal stream of consciousness if your ego is there for validation. Love your ego because it is what accomplishes. It is what Buddhifies. Love your ego because it enlightens. It incarnates the divine. It is a beautiful thing. Do not kill it. But when it takes the reign, nothing else does. So this question about proper meditation is the same that you must apply outside of meditation. It's the acceptance of turbulence inside me when I meditate, and outside of me in life in general. Okay, one thing at a time. Don't give it power, but don't fight with the outside. It's flowing. It takes time because the arrogance, the self-importance, the validation, it's all there. We want it. It's like, okay, all right. I wanted to feel important. It was a few days ago. It was about the publishing of the book, and it had nothing to do with the book. It had to do with a software that I wrote because I'm a coder, and it helped me translate the book, not through Google Translate, but through official translator systems. But I wrote a piece of software. I was so proud, and the other did not see how cool it is that a spiritual master can also code software, and it didn't break my day. Okay, it's not my brother does die. It's just someone who did not recognize how good a coder I am, and I was like, yeah, and that's why I feel so lonely right now. I am in a state of expecting validation. I had to recognize it was a few days ago. It comes back. It's not explosive like before, where I need space because I feel so lonely in life. That's me in the past. There was a time, the new ager who needs all the powers, but I still have it. Oh, that was a need of validation. I felt more important than the other. That's it. I did that. Embracing it, and then come back to, I like to flow with the Dharma. I could do that because I did not deny what I did, but I did not nourish it, but I did it because this is samsara. This is the world we live in. Oneness will come when we stop nourishing separation. And it takes humility and discipline to face what nourishes separation. And it starts with our behaviors.
Wow. Dear Master MahaVajra, you have been so generous with your time and your wisdom.
Cool.
My condolences for the transition of your esteemed parents. I send love and compassion and the most elevated blessings towards you. Being
you.
human after all. Bless you and thank you. For our esteemed audience, you can find MahaVajra at mahavajra.com and mahavajra.org. Same name for the YouTube channel, where there are thousands of videos on the Kuji-in, Qigong, aspects of Buddhism, force combat, martial arts, you name it, it's there. It's all there. Yes, those, oh my God, those goodies, yes. And so
it's 20 years old. There's a lot of mysticism in the 20-year-old videos in 2006, basically, where I started posting, that still carry a bit of the dogmatic New Ager temple life that I've purified, but it's still, the Dharma is still there because, the efficiency was my goal.
Yes, indeed. So
I want to say also, this is the first time I share publicly that my parents have passed, because it was useful for the Dharma. If it had not been useful to say, hey, I'll give you an example of how I process this, let's talk about it. Or else I would have kept it to myself. My friends know, we've did the funerals, we did the thing. It's okay. So it was a pleasure to be there. It was a pleasure.
Yes. So, dear beloved Master, we would love to have you again if you would bless us with your presence. Are there any words, final words that you wish to share with us?
When someone calls you a beloved master, dear beloved master, Do not block it or deny it. Oh, no, no, I'm not that great. Do not do anything and let their love in. Because if someone looks you as a form of admiration, or even those who have the flawed experience of adoration of another human, this is how they show you the love, but never use it. If I say to someone, no, 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 don't call me a master, I'm cutting myself from you. I'm judging what you just did. Okay, you call me that way. What can I do now for you to have that admiration for you? That's going to be my task, you know. So I'm going to part with your with the way you address me right now, to say it will be a pleasure to be there again in a few weeks. Yes. Prepare a list of questions.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you so
Drago,
much.
if you want, you can just go, I've isolated these specific passages on the book. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, this one or anyone. You know?
I've got goodies. Oh my goodness, yes. What is this thing? Oh my God, what is this thing?
Oh yeah, you want to speak of those occult tools? I mean, if you want to go into the occult, we can go anywhere. It's cool.
Cult can be next time. Protections would be another good one for another follow-up show.
Protection. Oh yeah, protection. All right.
Or like the Kujikiri.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Kujikiri. It's hard to speak of Kujikiri when people do not already have a good year of experience of Fujian. Because then it's in the head, you know, they've not experienced. But we can speak about it. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. Make your list. We'll do a satsang. Just whatever you ask. Let's cover it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Looking forward to our next conversation. To our wonderful, esteemed audience, thank you for your time. We freaking love you.
To everyone watching, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guraven Nama. Om Burbu Haswaha Tatsad Vitur Varenyam Bargo de Vasyadi Mahidiyo Yuna Prachodayate. Om Triambakam Yajahmahi Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarugame Vabandanam Rityum Muksham Amritate. May you all find peace and liberation. So be it.
Take good care. Bless
Peace.
you and goodbye. Peace. Bye-bye.